energy.
We walked around for 35 minutes just in the parking lot looking for this car.
The passion.
UVM schedules the way they do to get as high a seed as possible in the NCAA tournament and to get as much tournament prep as they can because they're not going to get it from their league.
The opinions on all your favorite teams.
The organization should be taking care of Matt rather than Matt taking care of the organization.
This is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
What's up, everybody? Brady Farkas Show here on a Tuesday on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. We've got a short show today. We're up until 6:10. Then it's Red Sox baseball, Game 2 against the Orioles. Bob Socci, the voice of the Patriots, is going to stop by in about 15 minutes here. We'll talk about Mac Jones. We'll talk about Brian Hoyer and where the organization and the franchise go next. So we'll get to Bob in about 15 minutes. I'm going to get to the Celtics here, but now with the breaking news that you may have just heard at the end of the afternoon news service, the show has a decidedly different tone to it now at the start. We will get to the Celtics momentarily, but if you missed the announcement at the end of the afternoon news service, tonight's UVM men's soccer game has been postponed. They're supposed to play UMass. That game was supposed to be at 7 o'clock at Virtue Field 90 minutes from now with the kickoff there. It has been postponed due to concerns about the welfare of first-year Catamounts player Randy Monty. Randy Monty is 23 years old, reported missing, and was last seen in the area of UVM and the UVM Medical Center campus this morning at about 3 a.m. His disappearance is not considered suspicious, but there is concern for his welfare. So I don't have anywhere really to go with this other than I want to get this out there, okay? I read that story. I'm a little shaken by it, a little rattled by it. And if you know anything, if you know somebody who might know something, please call in and report it. UVM Police, 656-3473. That's 656-3473. Anonymous tips, they may be submitted to UVM Police via what's called the UVM LifeSafe app, which is available online. It's also at UVM's Police's web reporting form, also online. So Randy Monty, 23 years old, was last seen in an off-white jacket, a blue-white flannel, and a mustard-colored turtleneck, blue jeans, and a light brown baseball cap. He was carrying a backpack as well. I don't want to speculate. I don't want to report anything because I don't know anything other than what I just read you. But UVM had their soccer match canceled tonight against UMass over the concerns of a missing teammate who was reported missing, last seen about 3 a.m. this morning. I hope that Randy Monty is safe. I hope that UVM men's soccer season can continue uninterrupted from this point. But let's find Randy Monty together. DEV has great listeners. If somebody knows something, you can make that call to UVM Police at 656-3473. Again, that's 656-3473. Randy Monty is a first-year student. He is not from the U.S. He is from Austria, and that is what you should know right now. So hopefully Randy Monty is okay. You can get in, as always, on the text line, 802-585-3026. That's the Napa Morrisville Napa Waterbury text line. Again, 802-585-3026. We will have some fun. We will get to the Patriots stuff, a lot of stuff on the Celtics, but right now our first thoughts are with UVM soccer player Randy Monty.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And here we go.
The opening thoughts of the Brady Farkas Show are brought to you by Sticks and Stuff and Swanton Lumber. They are Vermont's most complete locally owned home center with locations in Enosburg, Derby, Middlesex, St. Albans, and at sticksandstuff.com. Boston Celtics had media day yesterday, and we've got the audio from what everybody had to say. And look, I've got a zillion audio cuts from C's media day, but first and foremost, what you really need to know is this. The players are as confused as we are, about the Ime Udoka situation, the players are as confused as we are. They all went to the microphone and said they are in the dark. Jaylen Brown said it.
We were all, shocked what was going on, a little confused, a little bit, but a lot of the information wasn't being shared with us or members of the team. So some we could control, some we couldn't. So the best we could say is just to move on.
Jaylen Brown says not a lot of information shared. Marcus Smart echoed that.
It's been hell for us, just caught off surprise. Nobody really knows anything, so we're just in the wind just like everybody else. So these last couple of days, as far as this, has been confusing.
And Jason Tatum echoed the exact same thing. The players are in the dark. The question is, should they be? That's my question for you all on the text line. Should the organization have been more transparent with the players? Should the players be more clued in to what has been happening with their head coach and why he is not their head coach for this season? Okay, Tatum said he was learning the information in real time on Twitter like all of us. To me, this is, like most of this story, very, very tough. I just think with this story, people in general are not going to get what they want. And it sounds like a cop-out answer, but what we want and what's right are two different things. Because I think in a perfect world, your players would be totally clued in to what's happening, right? The players are the lifeblood of the Celtics. They're the highest value employees. They're the highest paid employees. They are the ones delivering you results. It would be nice if your highest profile employees knew what was going on with their boss. It would. It would be nice if your team leaders like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and Marcus Smart, it would be nice if they knew what was going on. It would be nice if they knew who their coach really was, and do they even want him back after the year? In a perfect world, I think that's how this goes. But this is not a perfect world. I get why the Celtics didn't clue them in. I think I understand why the Celtics couldn't clue them in. I mean, there has to be legal reasons, right? There has to be legal reasons why things are hidden from the players. Are there charges coming? Is the woman going to press charges? I don't know. Has a woman filed a formal complaint which is protected by HR? The woman isn't being punished. Okay, the Celtics ownership group said Ime Udoka is the only one being punished. So by my assumption, the woman involved still works there. By not telling the Celtics players, you would be conceivably protecting the identity of the woman involved. All of that's possible. There's certainly legality reasons to keep the players in the dark. So while it would be nice if the players knew, I think I get why the players don't. I can conceptualize why the players are in the dark here. There is one question that I have, and really this is a legitimate question. I am not smart enough to know the answer, and I'm not legal enough in my mind to know the answer here. The Celtics conducted a formal internal investigation, right? They hired a firm to do an investigation. So as we understand it, there was a consensual relationship between Ime Udoka and a woman in the organization. The woman then later alleged some unwanted comments by Udoka at her. That's what we know. That's all we know, and I won't go any further than that. But the Celtics conducted a formal review. Should the players have been spoken to during that review? Again, that's not a take. I'm not trying to play gotcha games with the Celtics. I'm just legitimately asking, should the players have been spoken to? I get the players being in the dark because of legal stuff. But if you're going to conduct a formal investigation, should the Celtics players have been clued in to a little bit because they've been being talked to? I don't know the answer to that. Do the players matter over the course of a formal investigation? Do you ask them, hey, what do you think of your coach? Hey, did you see anything? Hey, did you hear anything? Hey, how was he on the road? Did you ever witness anything? Did you ever see him make a woman uncomfortable in your estimation? Did any women on staff go to you and say they were uncomfortable? I don't know the answer to that. In a perfect world, the players would know what's going on. This is not a perfect world. Legal protections. I get why the players aren't clued in. But I just wonder, if you're going to do a thorough investigation, do the players have to be part of it? So therefore, would they pick up breadcrumbs by being part of that, or by being part of that investigation? I don't know. If someone has a more legal brain than me, please, 802-585-3026. Tex says, seems kind of weak given that training camp was about to open and no one told the players, let alone Brown and Tatum, what management was dealing with. I'm unimpressed. I think that the players deserved a closed-door meeting, a Zoom conference before they all got back into town. Hey, this is about to happen. I don't believe the players should have found out on Twitter in real time. That I don't believe. Now, maybe the organization was going to do that, and the information got leaked before they were ready for it. That's possible too. But I do believe the players deserved a heads up. Hey, this is something is going down. Ime's in trouble, and there's going to be some discipline. We can't legally get into everything that's happened. You're going to read some stories, though, and you just need to be aware of that. That I believe the players deserved. But I don't believe they needed to know who the woman was, how often something happened, what exactly Udoka allegedly said to her. I don't believe that was necessary. I believe protection for the woman was more, superseded the players' right to know. Tex says, I think most of us are so confused because we don't have all the facts. You're right. That's Will in Plattsburgh, 100%. We don't have all the facts. There are things that we want to know, that we're going to want to know, that we're not going to find out. And we just all have to live with that. We're all going to be in the dark about this, right? In a perfect world, we'd know who the staffer that Ime Udoka was involved with was. We know that. We know the nature of their relationship. We know why it turned from consensual to not consensual. We know what he said to her to make her uncomfortable. We'd want to know, did he make anyone else uncomfortable? We'd want to know if any of these actions happened on Celtics property. And we'd want to know if any of the players were clued in. That's what we'd want to know, and we're not going to know. The organization's not going to tell us. Legally, I don't believe that the organization can tell a lot of this stuff. And I don't know what journalists might learn that they're actually going to publish. We just don't know. And Ime Udoka certainly is not going to say anything for a long time. He may never be the coach of the Celtics again. Like, it's very possible he's never the coach. Like, when Alex Cora came back with the Red Sox, he had to sit up there at the podium and answer questions and be accountable and talk about his stuff with the Astros, and he had to do it over and over and over again. And he had a platform where he was going to get asked and he had to answer. Ime Udoka may never get that opportunity. He may never have that chance. He may never be put in that situation. So we may never hear his quote side of the story. We may never hear it. So, yes, I agree with Will. We're all in the dark, players included, and none of us have the answers that we want. One other thing from Celtics Media Day, more on actual basketball. Here's interim head coach Joe Mazzulla on his message to his team now.
The main message to our players is, one, you're talented. One, we have great players. We have a great team. What were we great at? And what do we need to work on to get to where we want to go? And regardless of who the coach was, that was going to be the message because of the belief we have in our roster.
Seems like a pretty simple message from Mazzulla, and I think it's smart to keep the messages simple, especially early. The last thing that Mazzulla needs to do is try to come in and, I think, be a know-it-all, talk too much, try to outthink the room, try to prove how smart he is. If you start doing that, you end up in trouble. What I think Mazzulla needs to do, simple message, get it out there, and then rely on his relationships. Relationships are going to be the key there. He has to have the trust and keep the trust of the players on this team, specifically his best players, and he needs his best players to facilitate the message. The message gets lost when all you do is speak in soliloquies and speak in giant, in riddles, or speak in, giant essays. Simple message, get it out there, and let the team facilitate it. Have the trust of your locker room, and then let that trust permeate. It's a really tough spot for Joe Mazzulla. He was coaching Division II basketball 4 years ago, and now he's the head coach of a team that has a very realistic chance to go to the NBA Finals. That is not a position necessarily that I envy. But he's got a big task in front of him, and again, I like where he started with his simple messaging. It is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Quick update on Mac Jones. Mac Jones apparently prefers to not have surgery on his high ankle sprain.
Really, the choices here for Mac Jones are rehabbing from this injury, which I'm told is his preference, or potentially undergoing surgery, most likely the tightrope surgery that Tua Tagovailoa had back in college. Other players have undergone it. Generally speaking, players want to avoid surgery when they can.
Mac wants to rest in rehab. That was Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network. So that's the latest on Mac. Mac doesn't want surgery, but he is getting a second opinion. We don't have anything official yet. I'm still looking at least 4 weeks and very possibly more for Mac to be out there. We've got Bob Socci, the voice of the Patriots, queued up on line 1. So let's welcome Bob in momentarily after we play Bob's music. Okay, here we go.
The old names are gone.
Brady takes the snap, backpedals, fires left, catch made by White, turns to the inside, dives across the goal line. Touchdown, Patriots!
But there's new hope in Foxborough.
Stevenson with a great run to the outside. Still on the go. Andre Stevenson trying to go wire to wire. Second touchdown.
For the latest on the Patriots, we talk to the voice of the Patriots, Bob Socci, on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Yeah, voice of the Patriots, Bob Socci, with us here on the phone line of the Brady Farkas Show. He's with us every single Tuesday at this time right here on DEV. Bob, let's just get right into it. I said yesterday, best case scenario for the Patriots is Max only out the 4 weeks. It might be longer, but best case scenario, he's only out 4 weeks, and Brian Hoyer can lead them to 2-2 in those 4 weeks. What do you think is realistic?
Yeah, Brady, I think that's a very fair assessment. I don't want to get into the medical part of it. Having married a doctor, I certainly don't pretend to be one in this household. But I think you're right. I think for the Patriots to avoid their season spiraling out of control, to borrow some phrasing and put a coin on to put a twist on them from Matthew Slater in his comments on Monday. They have to find a way to survive this stretch. Well, fortunately for them, the schedule does ease up. Now, going to Green Bay is certainly no easy mission, whether you're starting your first-string quarterback or your second-string quarterback opposite Aaron Rodgers. It's not the same Packer offense yet that we're accustomed to seeing as he gets, those new receivers indoctrinated somewhat, but still the Packers very sound on special teams in contrast to the past. Now the new special teams coach, and defensively, I think a much better team than we've been accustomed to at times when the Patriots and the Packers have met in the recent past. That being said, as you allude to, the schedule does get softer on the other side of that. Now, Detroit is an improved football team. Mm-hmm. But I think when you look at the stretch of quarterbacks coming up for the Patriots, and that's where you begin, although I constantly say it's not just the quarterback. The quarterback is a reflection of the offense when I'm, asked about Mac. I think, you start there. You start with the quarterbacks. You start with the opposition. In terms of head coaching and, the pedigree of those teams. And they do have, I think, a more forgiving stretch coming up with Goff, with Jacoby Brissett, a quarterback they know very well, with the Browns, for example, not too far down the road. Justin Fields and the Bears on the horizon as well in the month of October. So there's a chance to survive and get the split out of those 4 games you mentioned.
Do we think with Brian Hoyer, the offense
changes a great deal. And what I mean is Sunday we saw the offense really open up. Mac was throwing the ball down the field a lot. They were taking some shots. Do they trust and empower Hoyer to do that, or do we see them dial back the reins, ball control offense, run the ball first, try to just limit the big turnovers that have plagued this team? What does the offense look like with Brian Hoyer?
Yeah, Brady, I think one of the interesting things about the first 3 games, and it really goes back to training camp, the first days of training camp. And I said in an interview on our flagship on Monday morning, I don't think there's ever been a full day of Patriots practice out of training camp or a game in the preseason, or really a full game to this point, obviously through 3 weeks of the regular season, where you came away and said it was a good day for the offense. There have been some bright spots here and there. And I think part of that is just the lack of an identity, certainly, but in some respects a guiding philosophy. And they have been throwing the ball downfield a lot more this year. And it's led to, I think it's one of the reasons. It's not the only reason, and there are many of them, and Mac has certainly been complicit. But I think it's led to the high interception total, the high turnover total for the Patriots offensively. And I would think your primary mission, if you're Brian Hoyer, in these games, take care of the ball. That should be the primary mission in every game, but especially, as you allude to, with the backup quarterback. And I think that would suggest that the Patriots dial things back a little bit in terms of throwing the ball downfield and trying to force the issue at times. With Hoyer, you get a guy who's got a great grasp, obviously, of the offense. He's been in it for a long time, at least the old Patriots offense. But again, they're still, it seems to me, searching to find their way with the new coaches on the offensive side of the ball, and as well what they're trying to establish on that side of the scrimmage.
Bob Socci, voice of the Patriots, with us here on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. Are we in agreement here that the best course of action for the Patriots in Mac's absence is to stick with Brian Hoyer? Whether it's 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, or anything else, I think Brian Hoyer is the answer. I wouldn't bring back Cam. I wouldn't trade for Andy Dalton or Nick Foles or anyone else who's out there. Are we in agreement that Brian Hoyer is the guy for as long as Mac is out?
Yeah, I think so, and I wouldn't rush Bailey Zappi. I don't think we saw any evidence in preseason games that he would be ready to step in unless it was an absolute emergency. I think in preseason did some nice things, but really struggled at times and showed his lack of experience as a quarterback who played in the same system at a very small level of college football, and then with one season at the FBS level. So I would think that Brian Hoyer is the guy. And again, from the standpoint of knowledge, the familiarity with this team right now, if you bring in a quarterback from the outside, and now you got to try to establish some chemistry with him, and it's been difficult enough with the quarterbacks who've been in place to really develop that cohesiveness and get on the same wavelength at times. And we saw miscommunication. It seemed lead to an interception, for example, with Mac and Devontae Parker in a critical spot in Sunday's game in the end zone. And so if you bring in a guy from the outside, not only does he got to get up to speed with your playbook, but then he's got to try to develop relationships with the receivers. I just don't see that at this case, at this stage, being a likely alternative. And I also think too the status of Mac will have a lot to say about that. I think if Mac was going to be down for the year, if there was a fracture and we knew for sure that he was going to be out for the season, well, then maybe you might consider bringing in another quarterback. I would think the Patriots are going to look at some quarterbacks. Don't be surprised if they bring in some guys for workouts only to have an emergency list ready in case something happens to Brian, or if Bailey has to go in a game and something happens to him. But I would think it's Hoyer for the duration of this absence of Mac Jones, barring anything unforeseen happening to Brian.
Parker played very well the other day. He really delivered an element to the Patriots wide receiver room that we haven't seen really in the 6 years that I've been here. 5 catches, I think 156 yards, 31 yards per reception. He played great. Was that a product of Jacoby Myers not being there and Mac not having the security blanket he usually goes to? Or did Parker and the offense do something different to scheme him into the openings that hadn't been there the first 2 games?
Well, I think it's really difficult to say how much, for example, the Ravens contributed to that, because they are not the same Ravens defense that they've been. And we know what happened the week before to that secondary, for example, against the Dolphins. So Devontae Parker running as open as he was at times early in that game. And we'll get to some of the very good catches that he made downfield as well. I don't know if that's Devontae Parker, running that dig route and just having a lot of space. He's not a speed guy. He's generally not a separation guy, but he was certainly wide open at times in Sunday's game. And then there were other times where, they got what they expected. The back shoulder throw where he toe taps at the 2. A couple of other throws that were batted away at the last instant. I still think, though, that they're looking for more out of Devontae Parker in terms of going up and being that receiver who catches 80-20 balls and not the guy that, doesn't come down with a 50-50 ball. And again, there was a problem with the communication. He didn't apparently pick up a change to the line of scrimmage and then a reset before that end zone interception, though I think, obviously Mac had the choice of tossing it out of bounds instead of trying to force it in there in that spot and conceding that third down play to take a field goal, when the Patriots were still in it down by 5. And, I think with him and Parker, I thought as the game went along and the Ravens changed things up a bit defensively that maybe, they were trying to force the issue a little too much. 2 of the interceptions were in the direction of Devontae Parker. And it doesn't seem to me right now that, when Kendrick Bourne's not on the field, there is another guy to go to when Jacoby Myers isn't out there. Now, the previous week they had Jacoby and Nelson Aguilar. This week, Aguilar didn't give them much. 1 catch, but then a huge fumble late in that game. Another back-breaking play for the second time in 3 weeks. And so for me, I think, with Parker, time is going to tell whether they can build on what they did last week, when he and Mac reunite, or if it's just an aberration and the Ravens, secondary, the state of their defense contributed to it.
Does the Aguilar ball security issues force more playing time for Kendrick Bourne and less for Aguilar? I get they want to play 2 wide receivers more than they have in the past. There's only room for so many, but you mentioned 2 times in 3 weeks that he's contributed to losing a game.
Well, I think that there's a couple of factors. I think, not getting anything, out of little Jordan Humphrey in the passing game. And I understand that he's out there primarily, in running situations, running plays. I mean, the snap count and the correlation between when he's on the field and when they run certainly demonstrate that. He's almost like a hybrid, a tweener, somewhere between a wide receiver and a tight end. And I would think that's, they've got to get more, again, out of those other positions on the field outside of Jacoby Myers and that second receiver, or, in the case of statistically, the first receiver, Aguilar last week, Parker this past week. And I think that, when you look at Aguilar, again, the ball security issues is a problem. I think in the past, honestly, Brady, if a guy fumbled like that twice in a couple of key situations, unless it was a star like Gronk or Julian Edelman, for example, we probably wouldn't see that player, as much the next time out. But I don't think the Patriots can afford to do that. So I think Aguilar is going to continue to get a lot of reps, particularly with this situation. I think that they need him to have a productive year, based on where they are. With him financially, but also I think just where they are with their receiver group, especially without rookie Tyquan Thornton right now, and with Jordan Humphrey playing so much. But I do think you got to see more Kendrick Bourne going forward. I think they've got to get something out of the tight ends, Hunter Henry and Johnny Smith, to state the obvious.
They might as well be on milk cartons for the first 3 weeks of the season. They've gone MIA from the Patriots offense. Bob Socci, voice of the Pats, late game on Sunday against the Packers. It's a 4:25 start. So our first look at the Pats. Bob, we appreciate you, and we'll talk next week. Hopefully, fingers crossed, with some happier results.
Yeah, Brady, looking forward to going to Lambeau Field. It's one of the special sporting venues in the country, especially in professional sports. A lot like Notre Dame Stadium, obviously, but you think about old Yankee Stadium, great basketball arenas like Cameron Indoor or the Palestra, and Fenway Park, of course, Wrigley Field. And Lambeau Field's right up there with all of them.
I'll mail you $100 if instead of a cheese head, you do the broadcast in a Pat Patriot hat.
I'll tell you what, the Patriots are going to wear their Pat Patriot uniforms. If you make it $200, I might consider it for the Lions game.
We'll think about it. All right. I'll see if the bosses will finance it. So, Bob, we appreciate you.
All right, Brady. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely, Bob Socci. I'm thinking about it. $200, let him wear a Pat Patriot hat during the Lions game. see if Quorum wants to finance that one. Right now, it's 5:59. We'll step aside real quick at the CBS News update. By the way, we're going to recap a lot of what Bob said later this week. We'll talk more about that next on DEV.
96.1 WDEV FM Warren, 96.5 W243 AT Berry, 98.3 W252 CU Montpelier, AM 550 WDEV Waterbury.
This is CBS News on the Hour, presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance.
I'm Monica Ricks in New York. Hurricane Ian is now battering parts of South Florida and getting stronger as it heads north.
They say mandatory evacuation. It's time to go.
Millions are under evacuation orders around Tampa as many others scramble to protect their homes. CBS's Jason Allen.
We caught up with a Musler family boarding up their Tampa home. They're staying because daughter Renee is scheduled to marry her fiance Weston on the beach Saturday.
Right now, we can't get a marriage license because the clerk's closed. So we got some things to juggle.
They hope the wedding will still be a go for this weekend, and the state will weather the storm.
Governor Ron DeSantis.
Landfall will be tomorrow night, Wednesday night, but it's going to meander through the state all the rest of Wednesday night, all of Thursday. And it's going to exit most likely sometime on Friday morning.
Meantime, a January 6th hearing has been scrapped over Ian. CBS's Scott McFarland is in Washington.
This might have been the finale, the final public hearing for the House Select January 6th committee, but either way, it's postponed. In a statement, the committee says in light of Hurricane Ian bearing down on parts of Florida, we've decided to postpone tomorrow's proceedings. There was an expectation that at the hearing, they were going to focus on Roger Stone, a longtime ally of the former president's, and his possible connections to far-right groups.
President Biden tackled health care costs today at the White House.
President Biden is cheering the fact that for the first time in more than a decade, those Medicare Part B premiums will drop by more than $60 a year.
This year, the American people won and Big Pharma lost.
This days after House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy released a Commitment to America agenda, saying his party's platform focuses on 4 key pillars, including the economy and public safety, as the November midterm elections loom. Allison Keyes, CBS News, Washington.
The results are as expected in Ukraine. Pro-Moscow officials claim residents in all 4 of its occupied areas have voted to join Russia. Through an interpreter, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called it a sham.
This is an attempt to steal the territory of another state. This is an attempt to erase the norms of international law.
The West has dismissed that vote. Ukraine's also slamming a sabotage on major pipelines from Russia to Europe. Secretary of State Antony Blinken.
The leaks are under investigation. Their initial reports indicating that this may be the result of an attack or some kind of sabotage, but these are initial reports and we haven't confirmed that yet. But if it is confirmed, that's clearly in no one's interest.
The leaks could cause gas prices here in the U.S. to go up. Right now, the national average is $3.75 a gallon. This is CBS News.
Liberty Mutual customizes your car and home insurance, so you only pay for what you need. Visit libertymutual.com to learn more.
When you're an innovative business, every blinking cursor, every blank page is an opportunity. What will you do with it? Will you make something better or create something new? Our Dell Technologies advisors provide you with tools and expertise to do incredible things. Because we believe there's an innovator in all of us. For advice on smart PCs powered by Intel V Pro that's built for business, call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL.
Are you seeing the telomeres here? Come here, look at the scope.
Dr. Ocasio's lab startup just discovered a gene therapy breakthrough.
The cells have already doubled.
He needs a fleet of research assistants before this breakthrough breaks them.
We need lab techs, research assistants.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, my name is Jen Roberts. I own Onion River Outdoors with my husband Kip. Anyone who knows us knows how much we love any kind of outdoor cycling. This is why we are so excited about a new fundraiser from Central Vermont Home Health and Hospice. Cycles of Life, a motorcycle and bike ride taking place on Saturday, October 1st in Montpelier, which includes a motorcycle ride led by Rock Solid Motorcycle Club and self-guided bike rides on one of 2 beautiful routes. Don't forget about the raffle. Get your tickets to win a specialized Vado or Como e-bike provided by Onion River Outdoors. Tickets are $40 each, $100 for 3, or $150 for 5. Riders of all skill levels are welcome. Proceeds from this ride benefit CVHHH's telehealth program. Please join me, Kip, and our daughter Indy at Cycles of Life on Saturday, October 1st. Register and buy your raffle tickets now at cvhhh.org.
Racing on WDEV is brought to you in part by Gillies Sales and Service, Route 14 in East Montpelier, Chips Auto and Tire in Randolph, Ted Green Ford in Stockbridge, Optical Expressions in the Berlin Mall, and RK Miles with 10 locations and rkmiles.com. Season-long racing coverage on your racing station, WDEV AM and FM. The Brady Farkas Show now has an interactive text line, so reach out now at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Yeah.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show right here on WDEV, AM and FM, WDEVradio.com. Red Sox baseball 4 minutes from now. We'll get to the lineups momentarily for Game 2 of this series against the Baltimore Orioles. Michael Wacha on the mound for the Sox. Sox pummeled yesterday with a lengthy rain delay, 14-8. Bob Socci was great. Bob Socci is always great. The voice of the Patriots is with us every Tuesday at 5:45 to a lot of what Bob had to say later this week. Here's how it shakes out. Tomorrow we've got a 40-minute show again. We've got a full show on Thursday. We've got day Red Sox baseball, so we'll be on for a full show at night, 5:30 until 7. So we will react to some of what Bob had to say likely then, as we start to really get into our Patriots and Packers preview. But Red Sox baseball ends next week, baby. The last day of the regular season is next Wednesday. And from that point forward, we're going to have full shows almost every night. Now, we're going to have some high school hoops. We're going to have some Norwich hockey, so we might get out of here at 6:30 or 6:50 or something like that. But by and large, we're going to have full shows most days starting next Thursday. We certainly are pumped for it. But, so this Thursday, we'll have a full show. We'll get you ready for it. Bob had great things to say, as always. Did a bunch of great stuff today also outside the show. We talked with former UVM Hoops coach Tom Brennan. TB was at the first day of practice yesterday. First day of practice for UVM Hoops. I watched some of the video highlights that UVM Athletics put out on Twitter. I'm already jazzed up. Okay, Dylan Penn going to the bucket, Finn Sullivan draining shots, a couple of dunks down low. I'm ready. I'm already ready. I love summer. I love baseball season. I love fall. I love football. I'm already ready for Catamount Hoops. Make no mistake, I'm already ready for Catamount Hoops. It's a new conference, no Stony Brook, no Hartford. Bryant's in, new rival, new players, new storylines. I think this is going to be I think it's going to be a great UVM Hoops season. Tom Brennan on the podcast channel. We chronicled practice yesterday. I also spoke with Seth Wickersham. That's a big get. Seth Wickersham, ESPN senior writer. He wrote the book, came out last year on Brady and Belichick. It's called It's Better to Be Feared. Well, there's some addendums to that book because the paperback version came out this week. So there's some extra content there about Brady and Belichick's relationship, their meeting last year after the Pats played the Bucs. So you can check all that out on the podcast channel. It is the Brady Farkas podcast page on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. If you're not subscribing yet, please go ahead and do that. You'll get the full show and all of our interviews every single day. And Peter in Williston, he says he'll donate to get Bob Socci to wear the Pat Patriot hat. All right. Well, now we're getting somewhere. Now we are getting somewhere. Red Sox are 72-81. Hey, if they win their next 9, they'll finish at 500. Kyle Bradish is on the mound for Baltimore. They're 80-73. Michael Wacha for the Sox. Lineup for the O's, Cedric Mullins leads off in center. Adley Rutschman's the catcher. He bats second. Anthony Santander, 31 homers, had 2 last night. He's in left. Ryan Mountcastle's at first. Gunnar Henderson, top prospect in baseball. He's at short. Ramon Urias, he's at third. Rugnet Odor is at second. Austin Hayes is in right. And Kyle Stowers is the designated hitter, and he bats ninth. For the Sox, Tommy Pham leads off in left. Rafi Devers is at third. Xander Bogaerts at short. Alex Verdugo in right. J.D. Martinez the DH. Tristan Casas is at first. Rob Refsnyder's in center. Kike Hernandez is in second, and Connor Wong is the catcher, and he bats ninth. The O's are 3.5 back of the Mariners. They're 4 back of the Tampa Bay Rays right now in the wild card picture. So this game certainly means something. Go Sox. We'll see you tomorrow here on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM and FM.